Member for Durham.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And speaking on this private member's bill, I think all members of this House are thinking of the member in question, our friend, the member from Ottawa-Vanier, who has brought this issue to the national consciousness on a couple of occasions and can't fully participate in a debate that he has helped create, but that regardless of what side of this debate you're on or the issues raised in it, every member of this place and indeed of Parliament and here in Ottawa, the nation's capital, hold our colleague and friend in tremendous high regard, and our thoughts are with him in this debate. Hear, hear. Please clap for our friend. And Madam Speaker, I think of my short time as Minister of Veterans Affairs. In the election, we had victory over Japan Day, victory in the Pacific, the 70th anniversary of that important milestone. And there's tradition that when an important commemoration event happens during an election, that the minister will do the event but will invite the other parties to be represented. And I spent a day with my friend, the MP for Ottawa-Vanier, who was then a candidate, and I fully expected him just to come to the cenotaph and do a speech after I did and meet with a few of the veterans and then go back to his campaigning. Madam Speaker, he spent the entire day right through to the dinner thanking our veterans. We had Battle of Hong Kong veterans who'd been prisoners of war in ill health but still in their 90s. We had other veterans from the Pacific Theatre. That member spent the entire day with them, did not go back. And then I think of that moment often, Madam Speaker, because at the end of the day, he said, you know, I'm really tired in this campaign. It's really wearing me down. And months later, when he shared his news with this House, I thought back to that moment, how he was probably not feeling his best, but did not sacrifice a minute away from thanking our veterans. So I'll cherish that memory with my friend from Ottawa-Vanier, Madam Speaker. Starting out with that remembrance of my friend, what is special about this place is we can be friends and not necessarily agree on the debate he's brought here. But as a parliamentarian, he's raised this issue, and what I think is best served by this debate here today is the fact that we're showing Canada is not the country of 1880, when O Canada was first composed by an order of the Lieutenant Governor of Quebec for a St. Jean-Baptiste Day song, which, you know, anyone who follows that national celebration in Quebec might find some irony in the fact that our national anthem had that origin as a song for St. Jean-Baptiste Day in Quebec. But these national songs and symbols and issues are rooted in the time of our early country. And when we look at some of them now, we can actually be very proud of the country those people, the men and women that built this place, created. And so while the words and the passions and the emotions of our early years as a young Confederation can be looked back to, we should also respect the symbols, heritage, heraldry from that time. And that's why we bring to the debate all members of this chamber promote fully the full inclusion of all Canadians and the wonderful opportunity our country represents, and that our country is as strong, as free as it is because of equality between men and women, Madam Speaker. And the irony that when the song was composed was at a time that women could not sit in this place. Yet, a century later, we are debating whether the words chosen at that time should be changed. I think that in itself highlights the fact that we've come a long way as a country. We still have a tremendous way to go, particularly with equality on corporate boards, on a number of issues that I know our past government looked at, I know the present government is looking at. But it is wrong for a country to tread on its heritage and history, even when some of those heritage symbols, songs, anthems may seem a little dated while looking at it from the lens of 2016, Madam Speaker. And that's really what we come to with a debate about our national anthem. We are not debating composing that anthem today. We're celebrating the country that chose this anthem generations ago. Much like the mace I'm staring at, Madam Speaker, is not a weapon that's used on the field of battle today. But when the first parliaments were formed in Britain, Madam Speaker, it was a symbol that that weapon was being placed on a table and that sides could debate in their democracy. Do we discard our ties to the past, or do we learn by looking back at them, Madam Speaker? That is essentially the debate my friend from Ottawa, Vanier, has brought to us. Because I think if we look at how we would craft a national anthem today, whether in French or English, they were both written with a young country emerging a few years past 1812, before the Great War. Both the French and English version of O Canada are deeply military in symbolism, whether it's sword, standing on guard, true patriot love, Madam Speaker. These stir emotions, and they were meant to in a young country. And as someone that joined the Canadian Armed Forces at 18, that anthem was played at my ceremony and my oath to Her Majesty the Queen, which some may feel is old-fashioned. These are the ties that I have to the same institution of the Canadian Armed Forces that my grandfather and indeed many of our great-grandfathers would have. And as we approach the 100th anniversary of Vimy Ridge, we should look back and recognize that our country has come a long way. And, Madam Speaker, what's interesting, when I took my oath to join the Canadian Armed Forces, I stood proudly alongside some tremendous female leaders that were leaving their high schools across the country and stepping up to serve their country. And anthems, symbols, heraldry, heritage, are these connections we have to the past. We can learn by looking now at them. But we should be very reticent, Madam Speaker, to change them, because they are part of our history. And it's critical for us to learn from that history, Madam Speaker. But changing things to suit today with respect to some of the early symbols of this country is not a way we can show we've evolved. We show we evolve by looking back and saying, at that time, women did not have the vote. Thankfully, that has changed. Our country has modernized. But we are still having the tie to these important rallying points for an early and young country that was emerging to the north of its great southern rival. So, Madam Speaker, I think our debate here today, we can all MPs certainly want all Canadians to feel a part of the Canadian story, the celebration that is represented by our national anthem, represented by our flag, by the military colors of units, by badges, by crests. These all have origins in the early days of our nation, but we shouldn't substitute them each generation. We should look back and see how our society may have changed, Madam Speaker. So I think this is a good debate if we can look at it from that perspective. If we can look back and say, we take pride in our anthem and all that it represents. We take pride in the symbols in this Parliament, in this very chamber, our coats of arms. Countries do not change or alter these without considerable need or consideration, Madam Speaker. And I think in this case, we have a situation where if we start parsing lines of songs, we're not showing the respect for the tradition and the heritage that we've inherited. This in no way suggests that sticking to a historic root of a song means that one is not in favor of equality. And I I worry when people make that argument, Madam Speaker. And I know that listening to my constituents, as many of my colleagues have, certainly considering the origins of the song, I think we can stay to it. But I thank my friend from Ottawa, Vanier, for bringing this to the floor of the House.